What about the pod racing on Malastare? Very
dangerous.
fast, very dangerous.
What about pepper pod racing? About 12%. Pepper pod racing.
Pepper pod racer?
Dating.
All right.
We're back, everyone. Welcome to Archaeologists LLC. I am your co-host, Kevin Smets. We got Frank, the Hitman Janish, and Brandon Numbers Hannah, and we're here in this topsy-turvy. And I am Kevin, the Crusher Smets, and we are doing Archaeologists LLC.
You're the Crusher? You're going to take Crusher?
I'm just opposite. I don't know. You're not the Hitman, and he's not Number. I don't know. You know, you're blowing the bit. You're spoiling the bit. This is Scoundrels Inc. / Cut in Half Archaeologists LLC. I hope Frank has to make.
It's a merger. We're having a merger.
Yeah, there's a big WB merger with Discovery, and now we have this. I hope Frank has to make new thumbnails and new lower thirds. The more work that he has to put in, the better, because that always cracks me up. But yeah, be sure to like and subscribe. It's been a while. We've had some things going on in our lives, so God is good, though, and everything is great as far as our health and happiness. So hopefully, thanks for your support and patience while we've been away. But we're back, and we're not going to talk about Star Wars, so you have to wait
one more week.
You want to find out the newest Mike Zero news on Star Wars and Star Wars theory.
All right, yeah.
So there it is. That's much Star Wars as you're going to get.
Oh, here we go.
We're going to talk about Indiana Jones. Oh, man. Dude. What is this? Where did you guys get that from?
Where's yours?
Where's yours?
Oh, I'm going to have to leave.
Yeah, you don't got one.
Bother my child. It's
with our powers combined.
Belonging.
With our powers.
I'm trying to see if I have anything Star Wars in here. Probably not. Well, batteries. Aren't batteries used to power that thing?
Hey.
There it is.
This is actually a decoration for like the top of a cake. And I just kept it.
Did you steal it at a party?
That
was for my birthday. It's for my birthday.
It was your birthday party?
Yeah.
Okay, it wasn't some
for my 30th.
You know, it'd be funny is if it was the same kid where I kicked him out of the Millennium Falcon ride at Disneyland.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You are
notorious. What's the logo on that?
BB-8's actually powered by coaxium, I think.
That coaxium, no. That would be like saying that your ceiling fan is plugged in with gasoline. Coaxium is hyperspace fuel, bro.
Yeah, dude, my ceiling fan runs on jet fuel. It goes really fast.
It's really fast.
Jet A, yeah.
When you're out there in a summer day, you're going to need jet fuel for it.
Avgas. We call it avgas. Yeah.
All right, so what are we doing, guys?
Did you know it's called jet propulsion because the term rocketry had a stigma against it in like the early 1930s because it wasn't considered quote unquote real science? Anyways, I just watched a documentary on that.
Wow, what a nerd!
Nerd alert!
Speaking of documentaries, well, I guess Making of season 3 Mandalorian just came out. We all haven't watched it yet, but I'm sure we'll talk about that next week. So looking forward to watching that. There's your Star Wars bit. That's it. We're done. We're on to Indiana Jones now.
Yeah, and George Lucas is reshooting the sequel trilogy. Brand new actors and recap.
Right.
Yeah, he's actually reshooting Dial of Destiny.
Already?
He's keeping the name though because he likes the alliteration. But
yeah. I mean, yeah. It's actually. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to talk about that. Because we don't get that. Raiders of the Lost Ark, no alliteration. Temple of Doom, no alliteration. The Last Crusade, no alliteration. And then all of a sudden, back-to-back, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and freaking Dial of Destiny.
So
focus groups. They got a bunch of Brandons in a room. They're like, we want some alliteration.
I'm showing, because, I'm stupid. What's alliteration again? It's the when the letters like rhyme like Bruce Banner.
Yeah, it's like the same letter, even though Skull K comes second, but it sounds like it, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
The darned Indiana Jones and the darned Dial of Damn Destiny.
There you go.
Raiders of the Lost Rated Ransacked Ark.
Raiders of the Last Rated Ark, yeah.
The Conquistadors have been
you know what rating Raiders got when it came out in the theaters at first?
PG.
It was rated ARK.
Oh, come on. Gee, you know what?
no.
I walked into that, Brandon. I walked into that one. I thought this guy was like serving up actual trivia. Like, how could it? But I think it was rated PG in the theater. Like, not by today's standards, be PG.
Now, the first
PG-13.
PG, well, we'll get into it, but the first PG-13 movie, I think, of all time is Temple of Doom. I could be wrong.
Oh, really?
It might be that or Red Dawn. Let me look that up. Hold on. You guys keep talking.
You might be correct on that, Kevin.
I feel like I am because I'm always correct.
Crusher.
No, Red Dawn. Very quickly, the MPA put the we have. Oh no! Here we go. Here we go. I'll read this article to you guys. I'm not going to do screen sharing because I might have some, questionable photos of myself or my wife on it. I'm just kidding.
Tim wants a Star Trek guy.
Star Trek.
It's all Star Trek background.
He's deep
you don't
inside
want to see my live long and prosper.
Don't ask him what's under those sheets. It's Captain Picard.
Yeah.
Look. We have Gremlins and Temple of Doom to thank for the PG-13 rating. History changed 1 month in 1984 when 2 PG-rated classics were deemed too scary for kids. In 1984, the movie industry would be changed forever. In 1 month span, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and Gremlins were both released to theaters. They were massive successes, ending up just behind Ghostbusters, the top movies of the year. There was one big problem with the success. Both films were rated PG, and many parents complained about the amount of violence their kids had unexpectedly been. Dude, that movie was PG. Freaking the heart out of the chest.
The heart, man. That's man. We used to be like, suck it up, kids. It's just a heart. It's PG.
Wow.
It's still beating. Relax. He's not
right, man.
So
wow. But it's because of those movies.
And obviously Gremlins, I remember as a kid, you think is going to be cute.
Gremlins is pretty freaky, but I think Indiana Jones a little bit more.
Maybe that's
Gremlins.
how they got the PG rating. The MPAA was like, you ripped a heart out of a guy's chest. This is going to be R. And then Spielberg was like, yeah, but it's still beating.
Yeah.
But still beating. We didn't say any swear words.
And Spielberg said this: unfair that certain kids were exposed to Jaws, but also unfair that certain films were restricted that kids who were 13, 14, 15 should be allowed to see. I suggested let's call it PG-13 or 14, depending on how you want to design the slide rule. And Jack came back to me and said, we're determined that PG-13 would be the right age for the temperature of the movie. Very quickly, the MPAA put out the PG-13 rating into effect. The first movie to get that distinction was Patrick Swayze's Red Dawn. Red Dawn scared the F out of me. In fact, no freaking joke. You know when you just realize you had a dream about something recently? I had a dream that I was looking up in the sky, walking my daughter, and my wife was with me. And freaking all there was a sea of parachutes coming out of the sky. And I was like, oh, here it is, dude. World War III. And that's how Red Dawn, the original Red Dawn, when they landed at high school and the teacher comes out and then the guy just guns down the teacher and then shoots up like everyone in the school. And then all the guys are escaping out of the school. And then they show them landing in like the civilian areas, just shooting up grocery stores and gas stations. It's terrifying, dude. Terrifying.
Yeah, that's why I got PG-13.
Tat I got, bro. Well, it's gone now. It's a fake tat.
It's gone. I was like,
what? My daughter gave me a fake tat, but it's gone.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
You just want an excuse to shove your guns. That's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, so look, we're going to
no one's going to invade the United States while these puppies are here.
Those puppies look sick. Better take them to the vet.
Consider San Diego under my protection.
Well, you know what? When Brandon brought up, hey, you guys want to talk about Indiana Jones? I was like, you know what? That makes the most sense because I gotta say, I think Indiana Jones is like the most scoundrel of scoundrels, even more than Han Solo, if you ask me. Because Indiana Jones has got game, and like, and he gets in and out of situations all the time. I mean, a little clumsy as well sometimes, but I was like,
I think saying that.
yeah. I'm sure Jar Jar is the next in line to be scoundrel number 2 or 3. But going back, I think Kevin, you want to talk about? Do we want to save the rankings? We also have like questions from our Discord that we're gonna get into.
I want to load up exactly why he's such a scoundrel. I'm loading up the Indy Raiders script because remember, there's a freaking line that. When he sees Marion for the first time, and she's like, she says something like, and I'm going to find it in the script, where he's like, it was wrong, you knew it. Like,
yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
He said, you know what you were doing. He told her, you know what you were doing. And she was like, I was just a kid.
I was just a kid. So, like, what is she? And then, like, they had a falling out with the dad. So, like, what is this some, like, unspoken Macho Man Stephanie McMahon thing? Like, that's the whole rumor that's why they had the falling out. I can't find that line, but you're right. It's like you knew what you were doing. Like, so I mean, that was questionable. But then, I mean, yeah, he had a different. They were trying to make it like Bond. Well, let's go back to the origins of Indiana Jones too. It's like Steven Spielberg was approached to do a Bond movie, and I believe he passed. He always wanted to do a Bond type movie, and I don't know if the situation, and I hate that I'm not giving the best info here. I should have done a little more research, but I know that he was involved wanting to do a double Bond movie, and I think that he just wasn't ever approached or didn't have the opportunity, or he passed on an opportunity. But then George Lucas was like, "Why not make our own Indiana or our own Bond? Yeah. We'll do Indiana Jones." Which, and we can get to this later, is why I always thought, man, they're going to totally start recasting it like Bond. Because in the beginning, that's what the design was. It was like, let's do this swashbuckling adventure. Totally. It's like James Bond, and that's why they do odes to it, like when he has the James Bond tux in Temple of Doom. So right. Yeah, it's kind of cool that the origins, and I believe that Spielberg and Lucas were on a vacation together, and they were just like, hey, like we should come up with something. And George kind of always had something trickling around in his brain. And then that's where Indiana Jones was born. But yeah, he was a scoundrel, for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I think when you first in Raiders, when you see him first meet, well, I guess it starts a little bit at the school with the "I love you" eyes, and then once he gets to Marion, that's where you really start feeling out like what type of person he is outside of the nerdy archaeologist type of trope that he was playing a little bit. And he's got the hat and the whip. I like that he has kind of like these two kind of personalities where he's very studious and they get really into that in the Young Indiana Jones series, which is a lot of fun to watch, which I've been currently binging a little bit recently.
Same with this guy.
Yeah, and then he becomes once he puts on the hat and dons the whip, it's like he's got the jacket. He's like puts the gun in the holster. I mean, he's like almost a completely different guy.
Yeah, it's crazy how he's like literally just like a college professor, but at the same time, like he gets like after he teaches a class, he gets pulled to the side, and there's like these government officials, and they're like, "Yeah, so Hitler's trying to find the Ark of the Covenant." It's just like, we need you to go get it first. And he's like, "But I have office hours."
Right.
It's crazy too. Like, have you seen Young Indy, Brandon, or no?
No, I have not.
So they're all on Disney Plus now. I remember watching the premiere when it came out as a kid. It was all about Indiana Jones, but for some reason, I guess when those movies came, or the shows and the TV movies, never really got quite into them. So I decided I wanted to binge it all and then binge the movies. I'm going remember I was doing my all chronological order of Star Wars, which I still, since the last time you asked me, have not progressed. But with the Indiana Jones, like I literally was like, all right, I watched all the kid ones. Like you watch the kid ones. And then right when then they got Sean Patrick Flannery as an adult or as a teenager, you watch The River Phoenix. So then I watched the first 10 minutes of The Last Crusade and then stopped. And then now go to the next thing, which was really cool. When it first released, they did I don't know but with George Lucas and his out of chronologically, I've showed Frank this website about it, but when it first released, they were doing it all out of order, just like Clone Wars. Like the Clone Wars were doing episodes, remember, all out of order. Like in the war, you have to watch the first episode, or the movie takes place 6 episodes into the chronologically, really, and you have to watch season 2 and 3 episodes up top, and it's crazy how they do that. But Indy did the same thing, so they were bouncing back and forth with him as a kid and then him as an adult. So, and then they had these bookends with old Indy played by George Hall, who had a patch, and he would bookend it with oh, that reminds me of the time that I rode with Pancho Villa, and they got rid of that, and they combined 2 episodes into one, and you can kind of tell.
Yeah. He made it chronological, his life story. He made it chronological for the Disney Plus series, right? So I was doing a little bit of research on this just because I went on YouTube and I found the bookends and stuff for the old Indy, and because they were TV movies of the week, on ABC and stuff like that. So, and I'm I'm kind of miffed at Disney Plus for not putting, at least as special features, these bookends with George Hall, because it's just why are you erasing this?
Because it's not canon, guy. Dial of Destiny, guy.
Well, Well,
is he going to lose his eye at the end of Dial of Destiny? Maybe.
I know. I saw that someone made a video about that. I saw on YouTube.
Really?
Someone, yeah, I saw a thumbnail. I'm not sure who made it though.
It'd be funny if it was the wrong eye, dude.
but I still think they should at least put him on there. Fine, you can have him as deleted scenes or what have you, or like alternate. I think because I still think it preserves the history of the original running of the show, which is a huge issue to tackle when it comes to streaming and all these, companies, studios taking stuff down, putting stuff up, deleting stuff, and just it's really now I feel like, well, now I gotta go get the physical release because I'm pretty sure it would be the actual
the physical
TV
release
air or
all these changes were made right before a big release of it. So
really?
A lot of them are like exist only. Like, you have to find it on YouTube and stuff like that.
Oh man,
I feel like they knew what they were doing, like, because that's right when they were probably like, "Hey, let's do Crystal Skull," and they didn't know where they wanted to go from there. But I will say this about anyone on the fence with it: I am blown away by the production value of that. Like these
for Young Indy.
Of Young Indy, some of these episodes are insane. I really like the swashbuckling episodes. He does get into World War One. This guy's been fighting Nazi or Germany his whole.
I was making this joke. I think he's been fighting Germans since he was 16 years old.
Yeah, he could really pull a Cassian Andor line with that one. But
I've been fighting Germans since I was 6 years old.
But like the Pancho Villa episode is great because
it's so funny. It's great.
In Crystal Skull, so it's like that must have been a thrill for fans of the Young Indy. But Sean Patrick Flannery, I just think nails Young Indy. Like
he's great.
You just see it, like you could just see it. Sometimes maybe not, but like a lot of the times, like when he's upset or like when they're zooming in, or especially when he has the hat but when he goes to the war, then he's not wearing the hat anymore. So hopefully at the end of the war he'll wear the hat again. But like he has the hat and the only thing, and the soundtrack's really good. And I was telling Frank this, I'm probably the only one who does this, and I'm freaking stupid. But the movie or the shows have plenty of like traveling scenes, and some of them actually do the map with like the line, just like the movie.
Yeah, there's a couple. Yeah, I've seen.
So I always have my phone with this indie playlist queued up. So and I have like
what a nerd.
Travel to Cairo, travel to Akator, and like when that happens, I'll play it and mute it on the TV, and like. It just, for me, it just envelops me further knowing that this is like an Indiana Jones movie, because that's the only thing that's missing out of that show is they didn't use any of the Indiana Jones.
They didn't, which is kind of interesting, but I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'll also say Corey Carrier, the young Indy, when he's like 9 or 10, he's actually really good too. I really like him.
I was not I honestly, so I watched the first 2-hour one. I'm like, cool, he's a kid, and I love the dad is a great actor. Like he does a good, not over the top impersonation of Sean Connery, but good enough where you're like, oh, that's young.
Lloyd Owen is his name, yeah.
Yeah, and you told me to go back, and so I revisited the Travels with Father one and talk about there's one section. It won't even spoil it because it's cool, but they get like caught in this canopy. And
an elevator. It's an elevator.
Like an elevator, but like
a wooden elevator is what it was.
Like a rope, and the rope's very perilous. And when they're bickering, like on this little adventure, it's Last Crusade. Like it's shades of Last Crusade. So I feel like when we finally get up to Last Crusade, it's gonna be really like emotion. Like it's just I like doing this like rewatch. Like I'm purposely not. Usually I see these movies right when it comes out, but I'm like I want to give me enough time to finish binging the series before I see Indy. So I'm gonna wait till next week actually to see it. I'm sure you guys are seeing it.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably see it as soon as it comes out. I'm not gonna, but I think it'll be fun. Yeah, but I think it'll be fun to go from halfway through Young Indy, watch Dial of Destiny, and then go back to Young Indy, and it just kind of really like encapsulate it all, because it's like it is the last hurrah with Dial of Destiny, and then you're kind of bookending it in a sense with like how he came to be Indiana Jones. So I feel like I think it'll be, but like what you're doing too, it's going to be fun as well.
But now with the flashbacks in Dial of Destiny, Kevin's going to have to like pause like one of the other movies,
run out of the theater.
Dial of Destiny.
I forgot about that point. You're right.
People are going to be mad if they don't have an Indiana Jones theme during one of the travel parts, and then they're like, "What the fuck is that?" And it's me with my iPhone listening to the Indiana Jones music during the travel scene. But yeah, I really highly recommend Young Indy. I'm sure you guys in the chat or in the fan,
Elizabeth Hurley guy,
dude, Elizabeth Hurley, Yeah, he falls in love with a young Elizabeth Hurley, which then the book ends at the end of that episode, which it's not canon now, but and that's probably why, because I'm sure Dial of Destiny, we have a different future for him, but he talking about how he had his first love, this girl, and she's Elizabeth Hurley in London, and it's right before he goes off to the war, and she declines his, well, I don't want to spoil too much, but he wanted to marry her, and he's about to go to the war, and then I guess I read it at the end of the bookend, he's, old Indy with the patch, and then he's talking about how, and then he hears the voice. He's like, that voice looks familiar. And then sure enough, Jane Wyatt of Star Trek fame. Yeah. Jane Wyatt played Amanda Grayson, I think, Spock's mom in the Voyage Home. But Jane Wyatt plays an older version of Elizabeth Hurley, and they reconcile, right as Indy's probably. They reconcile, and then it's just kind of like the end of Titanic. They probably fall off the boat and die. But yeah, so
I had read, though, so maybe someone else out there listening or watching can clarify this, because I haven't gotten through the whole series yet of Young Indy, or I have not even watched all the bookends on YouTube yet, but I thought what I had read on a wiki page was that George Hall petitioned wanted to have old Indy and Elizabeth Hurley's character, forget her name, like Vicky, I think it was Vicky. He wanted to have them get married, like as a series finale.
Oh wow!
And he petitioned for that, but that never happened, I believe, if I read correctly. So, because it really would throw a wrench in the Marion situation, right? So
probably smart they didn't do that.
Probably, yeah, I think it's smart they didn't. But when you watch that episode with young Indy and Vicky, played by Elizabeth Hurley, like their chemistry and just like their characters themselves, how much they kind of like mirror each other and how they get along and all that stuff. I was like, damn, I was rooting for Indy, and I love Marion. I love Marion, but I was rooting for these two in the show, and I'm like, damn, that's like true heartbreak right there.
Yeah, and then he gets his heart broken, and so I think that's the last of it. Then he's like, screw it, because then when he's off to war and he has a furlough, there's literally an episode where they have a furlough, I forget where, and like they're like looking for the nearest brothel, they
were in Paris.
They're in Paris, and then Indy just, the only thing that I think is a little stretch is like Indy is partying with every historical figure.
Yeah, it is pretty funny.
He parties with Eric.
It's like Doctor Who. It's like going back in time,
and as a kid is hanging out with FDR or Theodore Roosevelt, not FDR.
Thomas Edison,
Jesus in one scene. I think. No, I'm kidding, but. No.
Yeah, I think he runs into Pablo Picasso when he's a kid. Yeah. Norman Rockwell.
So then he goes off to war, right? So now no more Elizabeth Hurley.
Yeah.
And then it becomes, and I'll say it's the only thing where I'm like, it's hard to you get through it, but it becomes a war epic. It becomes freaking Saving Private Ryan.
There are some sequences that are just like, whoa.
Insane. Yeah. There's one scene where they're like, what is that? And it's dudes with freaking flame torches, like coming over through the fog and like setting on fire people. It's total trench warfare. And
there's a scene where he's crawling through no man's land over all these dead bodies.
Yeah,
and he's 16 years old.
Yeah,
and like it's nuts.
It's like it takes this. It would be like if they had a sequel to. What would be a good thing? Like, yeah, they would have Man of Steel 2, let's say Henry Cavill, and it wasn't a superhero movie anymore. They made it a romantic comedy. You know what I mean? Like, there was no fight. It was just a romantic. Yeah. He was looking for love in Metropolis, but he found, it's like a departure, right? And so now that he was
looking for Brainiac, but what he found was love.
So it's funny because, like, it just total departure, and then it's literally like, it's like Band of Brothers for like World War I version. And so I know I had to peek ahead. I'm like, because as much as I like it, I was really digging the Young Indy adventure vibes. And it's hard to play the It's hard to play the Indiana Jones theme over freaking soldiers' dead bodies.
Yeah, not a good vibe. Not a good vibe.
One of my favorite scenes is when he's talking with Vicky, Elizabeth Hurley, Wonder Woman stole the scene. Remember when Wonder Woman and Samir are talking, and who knows how much different languages, and they
Yes.
challenge each other with languages.
It was cool.
Indy is 16 years old and knows like 10 like they do it like what they did on Wonder Woman, but like for like a minute and a half scene, full on, like they know every like back and forth. Like
I love that scene.
Cool.
If you've watched Young Indy, that's got to be. I mean, I haven't finished the whole series, but it's gonna be one of my favorite scenes from the whole series. It's great.
So I really highly recommend it.
Yeah.
It's and I think it informs you a lot about Indy and a lot of things. I think like he was like someone that was falling in love, and he kind of gets his heart broken a couple times, and I think that sets up for, you know. And then there's a couple other things too, where like well, I mean, they kind of did the snake gag in Last Crusade. But there was another, oh man, there was like during the war, like he's just off wanting to like help. And then when he realizes that like, you know, sometimes you're not fighting on the wrong side per se, but like, is the war even worth it? Like, you know, he was the wide-eyed kid that was just trying to go, you know, out and see the world and fight the good fight and stuff like that. So I would, you know, not talk too much about it because I know people want to talk about the movies, but highly recommend. And the production quality on these movies are insane. Their war scenes are
1992, I think.
Yeah, and like they're full legit, not just CGI. Like, so it's great.
Also, real quick, Star Wars tie-in. Ian McDiarmid is in it.
Yeah,
he
was in that episode. Yeah. Anything he says, he just sounds evil. He's like,
which is crazy because it's only like 7 years before he does Phantom Menace. You see Ian McDiarmid, you know.
Yeah, and you're seeing him, and he's like inviting Indy to like, hey, come to our dinner party, and I'll tell you about the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. Like,
and
it's the same
and you, young Indiana Jones, we'll be watching your career with great interest.
Yeah. So I would love to go in there and like do a re-edit of all the episodes and add. There's perfect parts for where you could use the theme like in every episode. Just do it once or twice. It would have been cool. I'm sure it's with licensing that they couldn't do it, but yeah, I really highly recommend it. There's a crazy episode. I don't know if you got that far, Frank, but they go on this definite like long journey in Africa, and like people are dying on their boat by the tens, and they just take in the bodies and throwing them over. Like,
oh no, I haven't gone there. No.
Dark, man. Like it goes dark in weird ways. Like, but you again, the other spoiler thing that Frank you could talk about is because I skipped that episode because I heard about it and I didn't want to soil her good name, but you could say it.
What are you talking about?
His mom.
Oh, yeah. You learn some stuff about Indy's mom that I was absolutely thrown for a loop. And if you've seen Young Indy, then you probably almost definitely know what I'm talking about. Do you
think it's a big spoiler?
I mean, when it comes to Indiana Jones's mom and an Italian having an affair while Henry Jones Sr. is off giving lectures, threw me. I was like, George, what are you doing, man? Like, whew. Let me tell you.
They talk about how the Temple of Doom was made when he was going through divorce. That's why they had the heart allegory.
Oh, wow, yeah. But I also want to say, too, about Young Indy, though, especially like the Young Indy episodes. George, you know, when he wrote this stuff and the directing and all that stuff, but writing these episodes, like he was like also he wanted to entertain you but also educate you on like past civilizations and languages and cultures and religions and you know and mythologies and stuff like that, which and it's so true to like George Lucas as a person in terms of what he stands for and what he aims to put out in the world with his movies and whatnot, whether Star Wars or Indiana Jones and what have you. So and then Young Indiana Jones was just another avenue for him to make something for kids, you know, that could be relatable and, well, entertaining, but also educational and pique your interest. And I thought watching, especially those first handful episodes, half dozen or so, I was like really like, man, this is, it's a little after school specialty sometimes, but it still has that flair of being a young kid. You know, even though it's set in the early 1900s, but it's like being a young kid and he's in a particular situation where he's traveling around the world with his dad, who's an intellectual and academic, and now Indy has this tutor that comes along with him and is teaching him all these different things, and whether it's art and music, histories and religions and all that. I was like, man, this is a really good show for kids even today, because I bet you like half of this stuff still isn't even taught in a meaningful way in schools these days. So if you have kids or young nieces and nephews and what have you, I would be like, yo, try and watch Young Indiana Jones if they're, if you can get them to sit down. I don't know.
And Remy's the man. I always wonder if
yeah.
If Remy could have been. He has a good friend who makes it. He's in a lot of episodes, and I was like, I wonder if they would have like done young Sala instead, so you could have seen that.
Oh wow, that'd have been crazy.
I don't think Sala's in it, but
yeah,
I highly recommend. And then we go to the movies. Maybe a couple Q&As first. We got
okay. So speaking of the movies, though, Erden 2.5 asks, what do you think the spirits in the Ark scene are? Angels of death or ghosts? I don't know, Brandon.
Aren't those the same thing?
It's the power of God. I don't know.
I think they're the souls, right? Because earlier on, he goes down into the well of souls.
Yeah. What did you first think they were?
The souls of the people it's already killed.
Yeah.
I
don't know. That's a good question.
So I always, because what ends up happening to all those people is they die, right? If you look, right, if you open your eyes, close your eyes, Marion. If you look, you're gonna die, and so I don't know. I would say that they're angels of death per se, but it's pretty. I wouldn't call them angels of death, but I think it's sort of like.
You're right, because like, why would ghosts come out to kill everybody? It would be angels. I feel like it would be the protectors of the Ark.
Yeah, I think so. Something like that. I don't know, but
they're Force ghosts, Erdon.
They're Force ghosts.
Because it carries the 10 Commandments, and it's like the power of God. It's not meant for mortal eyes. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm gonna jump to this one real quick from Booze. He asks, "Y'all like snakes?"
I used to have a pet snake.
Did you really?
Yes, when I was in high school. And
so your room smelled like a pet store, because any person that owns their room smell like a pet store.
What kind of snake was it?
I kept it clean. It was a Mexican
as clean as
milk
possible.
Snake.
When I had a freaking
you milked it?
Not a gopher, a hamster. I kept that thing as clean as possible. I was such a freak about it. My room smelled like PetSmart. Okay, so it's just that's how it is.
It was clean, guy.
What was the name of your snake? Jock?
He was a very nice snake. Yeah, Reggie.
Was his name Reggie?
No.
That would have been the best. Mm-hmm. You kind of wish you named it Reggie now, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Did it ever escape out of the thing? Because then done.
No, he was a very nice snake. He never bit anybody. Very
How long did he get?
What?
How long did he get?
Say it one at a time, please.
You go first. You talk first. I talk first.
What did you feed it? And how long was it?
Live mice.
You see, that's terrible.
That's Mother Nature, Kevin.
Yeah, but it's not Mother Nature. He's not hunting that mice. You're lowering the mice into the cage like
this long.
Goats getting labeled into goats getting lowered into the T-Rex. Yep. T-Rexes want to hunt. So do the snake.
That's you got that backwards. It's the cow getting lowered into the raptor cage. The goat came up through the ground.
That's what I said.
Okay?
The goat.
No, you didn't. You said right. Goat, but he came up through the ground.
You know what I meant.
I know, and I'm trying to correct you.
The fence for weaknesses.
So how long did it get?
He's like this long.
All right, I'm out. See, that's when I'm out. No, I'm like Indiana Jones, dude.
He was a sweetie.
Snake.
So to answer the question, though, no, I don't like snakes. No, I don't care for them at all.
I like snakes. I'm not afraid of snakes at all.
Wow.
They're my buddies. They're my pals.
They're my friends. Do you speak parcel tongue? What would be
that's just heavy breathing.
What would be our Scoundrels episode named after Hogwarts? Would it be Wizarding Schools, Incorporate? We have Incorporation, Inc. What do we have? What other company?
Corporate. I don't know.
That's nothing.
Just corporate.
Industries. Hogwarts Industries.
Core.
Yeah, I don't like snakes. Snakes.
The Ministry of Scoundrels.
But I know a lot of snakes are like harmless. So.
All right, so let's want to go through Raiders real quick. We'll talk about what we like about Raiders.
Yeah.
Brandon, Raiders.
Yes.
Is that? Well, I'm not going to ask you your ranking yet, but Favorite part of Raiders? Do you got one?
Favorite part of Raiders?
Or what's a part that always stands out to you, at least, I guess?
I mean, the opening is definitely
yeah,
very iconic.
One of those iconic, yeah.
Yeah, for so many reasons. The idol and the big ball stone.
The bag of sand.
Thingy. Yeah, and he like pours a little bit out. He's like,
and he just like the fact that he goes, I need a little bit more out. Like just eyeballing the thing.
But he was wrong.
He didn't do a very good job.
Too heavy, right? That's why it was.
He was never going to be right, though. He was never going to be right.
Yeah, he was. If he had,
you were never going to be right.
Sand. He didn't take out enough sand. That's why it was too heavy, and that's why it pushes it down. If he kept the sand the same exact weight as the idol, it would have been fun. What do you think? Measuring it, it's measured by weight. So he's basically putting it on a scale, and so that's why he takes the sand out. He's like, "Oh, this is too heavy." And so
he's trying to mimic that it's still there. I think the transfer wasn't good. That's what I think.
Oh,
I think the transfer wasn't good.
I think the transfer was solid, man. I think it was the second is the weight. What do you think, Brandon? You break the tie.
Oh man,
is it the weight or the transfer?
You're the scientist that works in space.
And I want to know also in the comments what do people think, if it's the weight or the transfer or something else.
It's the weight. He didn't take out enough sand. That's why it's heavy. It's like up, and then it lowers it down.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be the weight.
Come on, make a choice. Make a stand, bro.
It could be the weight. It's hard to tell. I don't know how any of that stuff works. How did they do all that stuff with stones and whatnot?
You're talking about Alfred Molina there was a dick. And,
Alfred Molina, man.
Gets a nice little spike sandwich.
Instant karma.
Give me the whip. Give me the idol.
Give me the idol, yeah.
That man plays a person of color in way too many movies.
Also, you know what? Seldom known or remembered, White Fang. Myth of the White Wolf. White Fang 2.
He's in that?
It's on Disney Plus. Check it out. That's one of my favorite movies around up.
My favorite moments are, I love the fight with the big bald dude under the plane.
Yeah.
They recreate that at Disney World. Have you seen the show at Disney World that Mike Kalinowski used to do?
Yeah. I haven't seen it, but yeah.
They would kind of recreate that. I was like that. I loved Sala.
It's crazy that with that, even with that scene, the movie was rated PG.
Yeah. When he gets through the chopper.
Oh my gosh.
And then I definitely had the action figure of him with the bazooka. Of all the action figures to get, I remember they didn't have this classic Indiana Jones. So for the longest time, the only Indiana Jones toy I had was Indiana Jones with the bazooka, where he's aiming it at Paul Freeman.
Yeah, do you
I
have
had that action figure, and it actually had a pole action where it shot a little bazooka, but it was like, and I was like, that it just looks like
accurate because he never shot it.
Yeah, it's not even like. But I think we have a Q&A from that scene if you want to read it, because I actually researched it and have an answer for it.
Did you? Q&A. Okay, let me see if I can find, or if you know it, just say it.
I don't have it handy with me. Hold on a second, pal.
I'm trying to. If Indiana Jones,
she's pulling up a thing. She's talking about a famous scene when Indiana Jones is at the agency and he holds them up with a bazooka and he's on the cliff and he's like, "I want the girl," and he's like, "I'll blow up the Ark and all of you guys." Yeah. And Paul Freeman's character Belloc comes up and is talking to him, and as Janine says right here, "Do you think Belloc really ate that fly?" LOL. What he's referring to, and you can find it online, is as he walks up and he's yelling at Indy, a fly lands on his cheek and then goes to his mouth and then disappears as he starts to talk. And people are like, "You eat the fly." The editor finally got around to explaining what they did. So they saw the fly that really landed on him.
Yeah.
But what happened in the dailies is right as he's about to talk, for 2 frames, because the fly's so quick, for 2 frames, it flies off. But they were able to shave those 2 frames, and sometimes I can do that in editing, like interviews, if I need to. Like, you could shave frames off. If he doesn't move, you can get away with losing a frame or 2. So they were like, let's have fun with Belloc and this delete the fly flying away.
That's funny.
And so that's why now the fly lands on him and then disappears as he starts to talk, because they just literally just shaved 2 frames out of it. So the answer they say is Paul Freeman didn't swallow a fly, but Belloc, the character, swallowed it.
They wanted us to think that Belloc swallowed a fly.
They were like, "We'll get him on this one. They'll never see it.
They'll
never see it coming." That's funny. I totally forgot about that. I was like, because I saw that question, I couldn't recall it, but now as you describe it, I'm like, oh.
They're at the premiere. He's like, I don't remember eating that fly. And he's like, you nasty.
How about you, Frank? What was your favorite moment?
Oh, I mean the whole introduction when he's like, well, when he steps into frame the first time, he comes through like the shit like that. Also, I absolutely, one of my favorite shots in all of cinema is when he enters in Marion's bar and it's the shadow in the background and she's just off to the left. I love that shot. The way Spielberg uses shadows and stuff is like phenomenal. It doesn't get in Crusade.
That in Rogue One.
Yeah.
Purposely, they did the Indy shot with Vader's silhouette, so I figured you'd like that.
There's a what do you call it? Bad Dates.
I said that. Yeah, Bad Dates.
Yeah, it's so good.
Basket Chase is good. I mean, that movie is just so.
It's perfect. It's perfect to me. The movie is perfect to me.
It's transitioning with this Q&A because I'm very good at my segues.
There you go.
In Raiders, Indy says he doesn't believe in magic. This is David McKay. In Raiders, Indy says he doesn't believe in magic, but in Temple of Doom, he experiences stuff that seems to be magic. Is this a contradiction, or can the events of Temple of Doom be explained, rationalized, or attributed to the influence of the blood of Kali? What say you, Brandon Hanna, our resident smart man?
I think he's just like a very skeptical guy. Even in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, he's like, yeah, I've heard those bedtime stories before. It's all BS.
How can he say that though after seeing angels of death fly and melt people's faces?
He never saw him.
Hearts ripped out of.
He never saw him.
Yeah, he has eyes.
He shut his eyes, and when he woke up, everybody was melted.
He don't know how. He doesn't know how it happened.
Yeah,
plausible deniability.
He's just hung out with aliens. He saw alien skulls.
He's a man of science.
And melt another girl's brain.
So it makes him a good archaeologist. He's like, listen.
He saved his dad with a freaking glass of the
he's
cup
like,
of Christ.
Just because the Holy Grail and the Ark of the Covenant turned out to be real doesn't mean these interdimensional beings are real. Okay? Let's not go crazy here, guys.
That is funny, David. I would have to say, you could believe if you wanted to really make a realistic take on it. Like, let's say Christopher Nolan did a re-edit of the movies, right? That the blood of Kali is making them think that they're pulling the hearts out, and it's all in their brains, and that's just a manifestation, kind of like the Scarecrow in Batman Begins when they would see things coming out. If you really wanted to go grounded, but I'd say with the way it's pulp and Indian, I mean, they saw an interdimensional, spacecraft fly out of the ground and go to it interdimensional. So I would say, that it's a contradiction that Indy has seen things. He just refuses it. But back to Temple of Doom, which is actually a prequel. So when you do your rewatch, Frank, you got to watch Temple of Doom first.
I know.
And hold on a second. So, and Temple of Doom takes place before that. So why would he say he doesn't believe in magic? Yeah. So he probably does think that the blood of Kali stuff kind of made him
skeptic, dude.
Yeah, and that's before, and then all this other shit that goes down. That's
it'd be funny in Dial of Destiny. It'd be funny in Dial of Destiny if someone asks him if he believes in aliens. They're like, nah, it's a bunch of crap. And he's like, but you saw interdimensional beings. He's like, it's not the same thing.
Yeah, which purposely, we get into that later, but like purposely, because Spielberg didn't want to do aliens. I just saw this. It was online, actually. I guess I'll just jump ahead real quick. So I'll wait for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Let's keep on Temple of Doom. Temple of Doom comes out. It's darker. A lot of people, it's low on people's lists. As a kid, I loved it. Like the minecart chase was everything to me. I fantasized about that all the time. It made me want to make my own Indiana Jones movie as a kid. My mom found out that I wanted to do a scene like in a pickup truck driving away as like a 13-year-old, and I would jump off the pickup truck. Was not happy and shut down the movie permanently. So like, she was like, we didn't have a truck yet, but she knew we were planning on trying to find one of the neighborhood kids' dads to like drive us in a truck in the desert. And me fall off the back. I could have probably killed myself. But Temple of Doom, man, like as dark as it is, like as a kid, I liked it. Short Round was the best. The opening with Anything Goes is just kind of a classic. And I would say for my favorite scene of that would be the minecart chase. So I'll kick it over to you, Frank. What was your favorite scene of that movie?
Yeah, it's hard not to say the mine sequence, like the whole thing is phenomenal. But I think I do like the what do you call it? when Short Round and Indy are playing cards, and what's her I can't think of her
Willie
name right
Scott.
now. Yeah, Willie. She's just having just the most horrible time with the elephant. Oh, the elephant. The elephant is an MVP. Elephant's great. I love that stuff.
Yeah,
that was great.
Also, it made me believe that you could jump out of an airplane with a floating raft and live. People are talking about talking smack about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and the swinging on the vine and stuff. They jumped out of an airplane with a raft and lived, and like crazy. Brandon, what was your favorite part of that movie?
That's a good question. So as a kid, I couldn't even get through the whole movie. Once it got to like the monkey brain scene, I was like, I'm out.
Yeah. Forgot about that scene, dude.
I'm like, I'm out. That's nasty. But I like maybe like the first time when they're like watching that like guy like get his heart ripped out, and you're like, what the hell's going on,
dude?
Pretty cool.
That movie for a long time freaked me out because of like that part of the movie. So for a long time, I just didn't watch the movie. Like for a long time, it was just Raiders and Crusade, and I just stayed away from Temple of Doom because I don't want to say I was scarred as a kid, but I was just like, I don't want to be seeing that stuff. And so I just stayed away from that movie for like the longest time, man.
Yeah. Well, I can't forget the rope bridge.
Oh my gosh, that is great.
I love
and dude,
that.
I'm not gonna lie, Harrison Ford in Temple of Doom looks like that dude is. Yeah, he's like he looks phenomenal.
Yeah, and especially like because his shirt's like half torn off in that, and that rope scene is great, or the rope bridge. And I remember the video game came out, and it was at my bowling alley, and it was so cool with the mine chase, and it was like impossible. You put in a quarter and you last like not even 2 minutes, and you're just trying. I never got to the rope, but whenever it's in attract mode, which is for arcade games, where it's just showing scenes and it shows the rope bridge, and I'm like, that looks so cool. I want to get that far. Never did. I got as far as the minecart chase, which is really cool. That was cool, and we should not forget in Raiders there's a callback to Temple of Doom, which is funny because now that Temple of Doom's a prequel, he doesn't learn his lesson. But in Raiders, this big swordsman's doing this big display. I'm going to kick your ass.
Yeah.
And Harrison Ford had the flu on set that day.
Right.
And
famous story.
And so he didn't want to do a whole fight scene, so he pulls out the gun. He just says, why don't I just shoot him? And that really funny scene, right? So in Temple of Doom, at the climax, same kind of thing happens, and he goes for his gun, but he doesn't have a gun. And you even hear the quick music theme, dun, 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 which is from the chase scene.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay,
there's a musical homage to it from the chase scene music, and it's not there, which is funny because it's a callback to something that hasn't happened yet in canon time. But yeah. And then he just turns around and runs, which is
that's
very
great. Though. I actually like that. I never noticed that music. Well, it's been a little bit since
you remember the theme? It was like dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
You look for the gun, you just hear dun 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 dun, and then it's empty.
Oh wow!
And he's like, okay, turn around.
That out.
So yeah.
Well, that's actually you talk about video games real quick. We have a question from Prodigal Knight 777, and he asks, what is your favorite existing Indiana Jones video game? And also, what would be your ideal video game on current gen systems? So, I'll just say, I can't ever remember playing an Indiana Jones video game. So, I really don't have a say. I can't really say, I can't speak to this. But my ideal video game on a current gen system, I mean, they have like the Uncharted games and all that stuff. So, I mean, it plays into that kind of thing. But man, if we had like an actual true honest Indiana Jones new adventure that took place before Dial of Destiny or just after Last Crusade, maybe even but before Kingdom of the Crystal Skull on a PS5 or the new Xbox, X series, whatever, I think that'd be amazing. And like in the style of like an Uncharted
or Jedi
Tomb Raider sort of thing.
I mean, the nostalgia one is Temple of Doom on Nintendo. That's a hard one too, but I had that. They did end up like the Super Star Wars games were great on the Super Nintendo from LucasArts.
I played those. I had those. Yeah,
fantastic. Very hard, but they had them. And they also did an Indiana Jones trilogy one, which is in the same vein. Really hard too. So that's probably better than the Temple of Doom Nintendo game, but like because it's really fun. It's like same style of Super Star Wars. So I would say that. But then you can't forget they had the famous one, Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine, I think it is, and it was based like the Monkey Island games, the point and click.
Oh
adventures.
yeah. Okay.
Really cool. You watch a long play of it. It's really cool. He's like you're back at his university and his school library and stuff, and you have to go find a book in the library. And if you've ever played the Monkey Island games or Maniac Mansion, it's kind of that style where you walk around and click stuff and stuff. But they had a full Indiana Jones game. Maybe that was the Infernal Machine. I'll have to look that up. But when Brandon talks about his favorite, I'll look it up. But yeah, they had that, and then of course they did have an Indiana Jones. They tried on the PS1 or 2, or Nintendo 64. I forget what, but they had like a Tomb Raider style Indiana Jones game, but bad reviews. It didn't play well. I think they were just trying to make a carbon copy, basically, of Tomb Raider. But it didn't. It wasn't as received well as you think it would be. So yeah, next gen. I think we nailed it with what Frank said. What about you, Brandon?
Yeah, I don't know if I can remember ever playing an Indiana Jones game. It's like I vaguely remember the Super Nintendo one, but that also could have just been like YouTube videos that I've watched of it. So I don't know.
So it's the Infernal Machine was the bad game on PS or whatever.
Okay, PS1.
Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis.
Whoa.
If you click on this, you could see like you just search it. Like they had a full poster, like Drew Struzan or whatever his name is, poster with like Harrison Ford on the cover and stuff. Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. I'll click it. I'll put it in the private chat. You guys can see it right now. Looked really, really cool. And I forgot they had novels too. They had so many novels, by the way, not to veer away from video games. They had novels of Indiana Jones, and I always thought that they were cool because they were so many titles. There were so many different titles, and they felt like they could have been Indiana Jones movies. Novels. If you just go to any Indiana Jones and the Seven Veils, Indiana Jones and the Dance of Giants, Indiana Jones and the Army of the Dead, Indiana Jones and the Philosopher's Stone. I guess he hangs out with Harry Potter there. Indiana Jones and the Unicorn's Legacy. I mean, so much. And with all these cool, just look, if you just search books, Indiana Jones, and there's so like a ton of them, cool Drew Struzan style like posters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So,
real quick before we get away from video game talk, NepNep has a question they ask, if Indiana Jones and Lara Croft ever met in a crossover with Tomb Raider, what would the plot be? Where would they be going? What secrets would they uncover? And what horrors would they escape from?
Well, let's. What we should do is we should ask ChatGPT that.
You're gonna ask ChatGPT right now?
I'm gonna ask. You guys keep talking. I'll ask ChatGPT.
Well, I'd be really all right. So we gotta like have Prime Indy, Prime Lara Croft. Obviously, they're in two different time periods, so we would have to have some dial of sorts
of destiny,
perhaps, to get them both in the same place at the same time in their prime. I think that would have to be, it'd be really. I don't know. It's hard to say. There's probably a comic book out there. I mean, for all I know, they've done like a crossover. They've done crazy crossovers with comics before. Why not an Indy and a Lara Croft?
Maybe Lara Croft has to...
Archie versus Predator, so they better have Indiana Jones and Lara Croft.
Lara Croft has to steal the Ark of the Covenant from the U.S. government.
Oh my gosh.
And then when she gets there, Indiana Jones is waiting for her.
So you want to do Lara versus Indy, John of Justice is what you want to do.
Kind of like because like then like maybe like she's like forced to like find it because like a bad guy like.
See, I think you do Indiana Jones and Lara Croft are teaming up to find this mythical island full of Amazonian women, and then you cross it over with Wonder Woman, and you have Gal Gadot in it too, and then you have this great crossover. Not that I support writers and stuff, but ChatGPT is just crazy. You could write them, ask the weirdest things. So I asked it to pitch a crossover in one paragraph. It said, Relics Unleashed unites the legendary adventures Indiana Jones and Lara Croft as they embark on a global quest driven by their insatiable thirst for history's greatest artifacts. As a dangerous secret society emerges seeking to exploit the supernatural powers locked within these relics, Jones and Croft must put aside their initial rivalry, combining their unique skills to outsmart their foes, and ultimately save the world from ancient forces on plunging humanity into darkness. Dude,
okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
AI is scary. Because I would watch that. I mean, I don't support it, but that sounds like
right.
Don't cancel me, Twitter. I still support writers.
Let's go down to Last Crusade, because I think this one is also very high on a lot of people's lists. Some even put it as their favorite Indy. One of you two, one of us three might do that as well. But I will say, when they bring in Sean Connery as his dad, I was like, oh, that's incredible. Speaking of like the James Bond stuff, I mean, you got James Bond as Indiana Jones' father, you know? That's fun. That's fun. That's kind of like a full circle type of thing. Is it?
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
What do you, Brandon? What do you think?
She talks in her sleep.
I got a throwdown question about that, and I got
they
it right.
are
I reviewed
Eskimo
my notes.
brothers. Isn't that wild?
Would that be brothers or Eskimo father and son?
Eskimo. I don't know. Eskimo fam. I don't.
Last Crusade. I remember going to the theater, and there was a bunch of people waiting outside the theater. Their movie had just like stalled or whatever during Indy. And I popped my head in, and it was during like the crossing, like the invisible bridge or whatever. And I just remember like sneaking into the theater, seeing it, and it was like, I don't know if it was frozen on that or but I just remember everybody was standing outside, and so they had to. So I just remember always thinking, oh, all those people got a chance to rewatch it because they restarted the movie, but they would have to watch all of it all the way up till that again to get to that point, and that's quite a long way into the movie.
Yeah.
Relating the Two Towers, we saw the Two Towers on opening night, and it after the warg scene, so about 30 minutes into it, the thing crashed. Crashed, and everybody was like booing and like, what the heck? And so they restarted it, but we got to watch. So I was positive about it. I was like, oh, I got to watch the first 30 minutes of the movie twice, you know. But yeah, that's my personal memory of Indiana Jones. But I remember seeing Last Crusade. That's my first Indiana Jones movie in the theater.
Wow.
And I think that kind of informs why I think it's my favorite. Just spoiler alert, that's my number one. Just like the interplay with him and his dad, and the music and the themes, and I love the young Indy, and then the hat goes up and the old Indy on the boat. You have this thrilling boat fight in the beginning. Like, how cool is that? And that was just the MacGuffin. That was just to kick things off, you know. And you get right into the meat of it with and you know, my favorite gag of all the movies is when he's like, "Oh, Marcus is." Oh, you think the Diaries of Marcus,
the best.
And he's like, oh, you know, he knows every language. He has contacts from here to the Sudan. With any luck, he'll blend in, disappear. You'll never find him. With any luck, he has the Grail already. And it cuts to him, and he's like, "Excuse me, does anyone here speak English? I say." And he's just sticking out like a sore thumb. Love that. And then the Venice scenes, and it's just so much indie action there, and then the tank chase. One thing we forgot on the Raiders thing is the famous truck chase, like when he gets up the horse and he chases that down alone, and like everybody's like cheering as he's like racing down on the horse, and his theme plays. Ooh, goosebumps! Can't go an episode without that. But they kind of mimic that in Indy with the tank, and then who loves when the Diedrich or whatever, or I forget, maybe that's Diedrich's from the first, whatever, the German on the tank is like and falls, and then you see you could see the puppet of the character like getting smashed.
Yeah.
So Last Crusade, I think it felt like Last Crusade had like the best of, and then another one, like all, you know, I'm always about these little cameos and musical hints. When they're walking by the wall and you see the structure, you see the little painting of the Ark of the Covenant, and and she's like, Alison Duty's character, Elsa, is like, "What's that?" And he's like, "Ark of the Covenant," and he's like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "Pretty sure." And you hear the Ark theme real quick, na na na. I love things like that. They do it a little more on the nose in Crystal Skull, but we'll get to there in a second.
I love X marks the spot. I love that whole little scene. That's
with
great.
with the librarian, like every time he puts the stamp down, right? Like, I mean, come on. People are complaining about cheese. There's cheese in all of the movies.
Oh man, it's
great. I guess I'm preemptively defending Crystal Skull a little here, but yeah. So, what do you think, Brandon?
I think my favorite scene is probably the Holy Grail scene at the end. He's like, "You chose wisely," you know. That's great. And then like my favorite like little gag is when he's like, "No ticket."
That's
how could we forget
great.
that?
No ticket. That's a phenomenal
Like,
scene. I love that.
I think everybody like whips out their tickets after that.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I will say,
and just the interplay too. Like, well, I taught you self-reliance. Oh, you want to talk? Let's talk. It's like, which now when you see Young Indy, you're like, yeah, man, it's a very good characterization.
yeah,
like,
I can't wait to rewatch Last Crusade after watching a good chunk of Young Indy. Just because of like knowing a little bit more about Indy's upbringing or at least his relationship with his father and how that was. And
are you gonna rewatch the movies before you get to Dial of Destiny this weekend? Are you gonna have time?
I don't know. What's that, Brandon?
I won't have time.
Yeah.
You only have this is the last chance, dude. If you want to make it the best indie experience, you gotta watch them all before, dude. Because apparently, here's what I've heard: there's a lot of very small, not as on the nose nods, but there are a lot of subtle nods, things in the background and stuff that a rewatch will help you find. And the spoiler-free review said they strongly recommended rewatching them first because and it's from a friend of the podcast, John Hoey. It's the only non-spoiler review. I wanted to see what his thoughts on. He's a big fan, and he talked about how the ones that there's nothing quite on the nose as the one I just described. Like looking at the wall, pretty sure.
Yeah.
Look, it's Coruscant behind me. There's a plane flying.
Oh, look at that.
But he did say the ones that you can catch, dude. You feel so like oh man, I caught that.
Paid off.
You know what I mean?
Paid off, yeah.
So it's kind of rewarding that way. How about you, Frank? What about you? What's your favorite part of that movie?
Oh man,
Crusade.
My favorite. I think it's when the revelation when Indy and Henry they were like, wait a minute, how do you when they figure out they both slept with Elsa? Like, I think that's one of my. I mean, it's just a great interaction with Sean Connery and Harrison. I mean, Sean Connery and Harrison Ford. I mean. Man.
His look, Sean Connery looks at him like, and then starts to give him a little cheeky smile.
Oh,
like,
man.
Yeah. I love that.
It's so great.
And then the bike chase too. Let's not forget about that.
Yeah. I mean, the action in Crusade is ratcheted up to a whole nother level. And so I just love all the action because it really sets a template. I mean, well, Raiders did, but like Crusade carries on that template of like what an action sequence is, or what it can become, especially when you have we're a Star Wars channel, so when you watch Rebels or you watch other Star Wars movies, there's a lot of similarities between chase scenes or sequences or action sequences between Indiana Jones and Star Wars. Especially, I see a lot in Rebels. There's a lot of like train sequences in Rebels and stuff like that. Like I think it was like the season 2 or 3 premiere of Rebels. They're saving. I can't even remember now. But there's like it's like a convoy that they're trying to in Rebels, that is, there's a convoy that they're trying to disrupt and like save. I think it's Sabine's dad. Anyways. But you just see a lot of the whole Fast and Furious franchise is based off of like Indiana Jones chases. Like if it wasn't for Indiana Jones, I don't Fast 10 doesn't even come close. Fast and Furious franchise is dead after the first one, after the second one, whatever. Anyways, but yeah, so I think also just bringing in Sean Connery for Last Crusade, just love that he's a part of it and that you get this other side of Indiana Jones, because he seems like very much a loner in a sense between the first 2 movies, and then you hear about stuff about his father and whatnot, but in the third one when he actually interacts, and there's that whole other thread to pull on for Indiana Jones, it's like, oh, there's a whole, we're just scratching the surface of Indiana Jones. That's when you're just watching the movie, so that's why I like Crusade a lot, though.
Yeah, remember when in the bike scene too, when he sticks the stick in the motorcycle and he shoves up, and he's all proud of himself, and he looks at his dad, and his dad's like looking at him scolding, like.
Even the scene where Sean Connery, Henry Jones Sr. thinks Indy's dead, and he just has like see all this emotion, and then he finds out he's alive, and he's like, okay, fine. He just and it's like. it's such an interesting dynamic between both of them. Like there is a lot of love there, but because of like the time, of that time, like it just isn't something that that happens.
There's another Young Indy moment where they capture a German colonel, you'll see, and they're escorting him back to the Allied lines. And the colonel is just always displeased. It's just constantly questioning Indy on his choices when they're trying to escape on a balloon and other things like that. And at one point, it made me laugh out loud because like he said something that was very Sean Connery, like disapproving, like, and he was like, "It's like I kidnapped my dad." Like it's very funny. You'll get to that part. And then we got Crystal Skull.
Yeah,
Crystal Skull.
Master.
Brandon and I, right before I moved out down to San Diego, Brandon joined me and Paul Preston and Adam Witt and David B., friend of the podcast. We all saw it at Tarantino's theater, and that was fun. It had a fun crowd. It reminded me that these movies are crowd movies. And the only thing that bugs me, I guess, still is like the swinging with Shia. I just thought that's kind of silly. But I never had noticed that the reason the monkeys trust him is because of his hair. If you look at the monkeys, they all have the same haircut and that they pompadour, and that's why they trust him and swing with him, which is just another bizarre.
If you're gonna be okay with or deal with a raft, saving Indy and Short Round and Willie, out of a plane, then you got to roll with the swinging monkeys. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I mean,
the ant scene. So my standouts for that would be
I love that ant scene. That's
the
great.
Area 51 scene when he's swinging around and he's running up on the rafters, low angle, and they're trying to shoot at him, and you just see the thing. That's great. And
can I say something real quick about that sequence?
Yeah, go ahead.
I wish they could have done that with a little bit younger Harrison Ford because it would have looked really great, and it still looks great. But part of me is like, oh, what if he was just a little bit younger?
Well, if he was a little bit younger, he would have made it and not swung back.
I mean, yeah, that's true. That's a great point. So it's a good gag to play into that. But
they go a little much when the Ark of the Covenant falls out, and like you hear it enough when you hear the theme when they open Area 51, right? Or Area 30. I don't know if it was 51 or 31.
It's 51.
I remember.
Yeah, it's
51. Yeah. So. And then you hear that when it rolls out, though. I mean, I still geeked out about it because I love me a good. I love me some fan service, but that and then the ant scene is pretty brutal. With the ants are dragging.
The ant scene is
like that's classic, like Temple of Doom Indy right there.
That's Temple of Doom, and it also reminds me of like the scarab scenes in like Mummy.
Oh yeah,
it gives me that vibe too. So it's but also you got Mummy doesn't exist without Raiders on Indiana Jones because that's like an offshoot of Indiana. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. Yeah.
But we could talk about the nuking the fridge thing too. That existed even in Frank Durabont's script, by the way. There's a great channel on YouTube. Maybe I'll post it in the Discord if I could find it. But he goes over like the movies that could have been, like Tim Burton's third Batman movie, the Superman Lives movie from Tim Burton. But talks about the Frank Darabont. It was called Indiana Jones and the City of the Gods, and a lot of it was not a lot of it. Some of it was taken, but. It was crazy. Like some of the early ideas and concepts, like it was always going to have him. He was going to be married, but he didn't realize that he was married to like a Russian spy and stuff like that. Like, so the movie was going to open with a wedding, and that like she takes off like and leaves him at the altar, and then this whole event. There was no Mutt or anything like that, no Marion. But when I saw the details of it, like, and apparently there's live script readings you can find on YouTube if you just Google it. It's a really good script, but to be honest, I was living in Austin at the time. My personal memory of that is my friend telling me he was going to be right there with we had two girls joining us. So I had to save 3 seats on opening night of Indiana Jones. And they didn't get there until after the Area 51 scene. So everybody like hated me because like I was saving these seats and no one showed up on time, and I'm like everybody, and I had prime seats, and I'm like I had all these like a jacket, and I just remember being so stressed out about it and just feeling like everybody in the theater hated me. But that's my personal memory of it. How about you guys? Brandon, do you remember seeing that? Were you excited for it coming back all that time, and were you disappointed, or were you stoked?
I do remember seeing it. This had to be the first Indiana Jones movie I saw in the theaters. I don't think there were any like re-releases because I'm a little on the younger side. Wouldn't have been around when the first 3 came out.
Really?
No, I like it. I honestly like rewatching all these movies in a row for like studying for the Schmodown a few years ago. I honestly like thought that it fit right in. And if anything, Temple of Doom was like the odd one out because like it doesn't have like the same like stylistic like he doesn't like start off at like the university, and he like doesn't like, and when he like travels they like show like the map and everything. You don't have that in Temple of Doom, and it like
Yeah.
just like those like small things that like
Yeah.
make it seem like it's like part of the same story thread. So like to me it always like fit, even though you have like well, a lot more CGI and stuff obviously compared to like the old school like ILM visual effects of the 80s. But yeah, I like it. And watching it at the New Bev, like you mentioned, they project all their movies on film. So watching it on film gives it
cool.
that quality that it's like an old Indiana Jones movie. So I recommend watching it on film if you can, because it really makes it fit in with the original three.
Damn. That'd be cool.
What about you, Frank?
You know what? This one doesn't really... I don't have a lot of memories for this one just because, A, it's the one I watched the fewest.
Yeah.
And part of that is just because it hasn't been out as long as the other three, right? And then part of it is just because I just really love the first three a lot. With that said, though, you know, I'm not saying that I don't like Crystal Skull. I think there was a period of time I watched it, and then there was a long period of time, and then I watched it again, and part of me was like, I guess I wasn't down on this movie the way other people were. I thought perhaps I was, because it's been such a long time that I was kind of believing that, like, oh yeah, I must feel that way too about the movie, you know, how people had such negative feelings towards it. I was like, I must feel that way too because I haven't watched it in a long time. And then when I did, I was like, I don't really understand why people dislike this movie so much. I still think it's a great time. It's not my favorite one. It's not, you know, it's certainly at the bottom of the list for me, but well, it's close. It's a tie between well, just to get to it, it's a tie between Temple of Doom and Crystal Skull and Temple of Doom are like tied for the bottom of the list, you know. But I think there's a lot of there's some really great stuff in that movie that I love. I do wish I liked Shia a little bit more in the movie because I actually like Shia LaBeouf a lot as an actor, and I wish that his character, it's not so much that it has to do with Shia, I think the character more or less I'm not super crazy about, but
Mutt Williams.
Yeah, but like I'm not super crazy about
Mutt.
it, but
I just thought his name was Mud.
His first arrival through the fog on the motorcycle on the train thing, I always thought was really cool.
Yeah.
And you're going. Remember, he's like, "Go, don't tell anyone. Don't you follow your path. Don't need to go to school." And then when he finds out he's his dad, he's like, "And you're gonna go back to school." Like, so funny.
I will say, I do like he was gonna pick up the hat, and then the hat, it's right there. What's gonna happen? Yeah.
Yeah. Another funny moment. Marion just played it so well. You could just see when she smiles at Indy. And one of my favorite lines is, well, I don't think this line, it's not the years, it's the mileage. Is a great line from Raiders. And Frank Darabont in the interview said it's before he saw Crystal Skull. And I'm bummed that they didn't keep it. But he was like, I wonder if they kept this line in there. I had a line where he finally says, "It's not the when to Marion the same time though he says it's not the mileage, it's the years, honey." Like kind of going back on it, but. Yeah. My favorite is when Marion is like, "You dated all these other guys. What's the difference between me and them?" And he looks at her and he's like, "They weren't you, honey." Yeah. And he climbs up the train, and then you just see her smiling. I remember at the theater opening night that got a huge reaction.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. My daughter is screaming through the.
Yeah. She loves it too.
She loves it too. You like Indiana Jones, honey? Yes.
I think we don't have any more questions.
We have one more question, and then we have a ranking. Oh, why don't you get to that question? I'll be right back. I'm going to grab this daughter.
Is it? Oh, okay. Well, I think Kevin almost brought this up earlier. Have you ever heard of that old comic short story, If Earth Was in Star Wars, and Han and Chewbacca crash landed on Earth, or you brought it up, Brandon, whatever. Crash landed on Earth, and Han is killed by Native Americans, and Chewbacca became Bigfoot, and Han's skeleton is discovered by Indy. That's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I don't know much about that, but I think you do see like R2 and 3PO as like hieroglyphics in Raiders at some point.
Yes, yeah. I remember seeing that little that still or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
This is like some. I've never heard of this comic short story. First of all, Andrew-21. But I do like it a lot as like a crossover one-off. I'm thinking I'm going to have to seek this thing out just to give it a whirl.
Only if they make Indiana Jones a descendant of Han Solo.
Oh my gosh. Could you imagine? That would be, man, so that would mean that Han Solo's actually origins is from Earth. He would be.
I'm back. Sorry, my child's here. Hi. She's too shy to come on, but
That's fine.
I know that makes for great TV. But my wife's showering and she was banging on the door, so I wanted to make sure she was okay. Did you get to the Andrew 21 question?
Yeah. Have you ever heard of this short story comic?
I think I heard about it somewhere, or maybe it was like a fan fiction. I thought that was funny. I have actually a shirt. I tried to find it. I wanted to wear it, and it was of Indy. Sorry. Remember I had a heart out? This is why I had a heart out, guys. Kira, you're not wearing a top. You can't go on screen. I'll get arrested.
We all will.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, there you go.
I just up on the bed. I will say I have this shirt where it's Indiana Jones with a torch, and he's uncovered the. Sorry.
Why don't you go dress your child? How about that?
Because she's getting ready for bed. I mean, she's got to put her PJs on. Okay, I'll be right back. I'm going to put PJs
go.
She's about to take a bath, actually.
Okay.
But it's Indiana Jones with the torch and the frozen in carbonite. And it's Indy uncovering the guy with the torch. And I thought that was a really cool shirt. Hi. Yes.
Hi.
Do we just want to rapid fire our rankings?
Yeah. So I'll go first. It would have to be. It would be Raiders, Crusade, and then I'm gonna
Raiders, Crusade.
Then Temple. Then
wow.
Skull. Yeah.
So close on those two.
Yeah. That's me.
So I thought about this. It used to be Raiders over Crusade, but I think being a father now has changed. I don't know. I'm just really excited to revisit Crusade now that I have a child because I haven't since. But she's taking pictures of me right now with my phone. I would say that the ideal order for me is Crusade and Raiders, but right up there. Honestly, Raiders has this classic pulpy, this crazy. With the opening, you can't beat the opening, and the truck chase, and with the Ark theme, the music of the music of the movies too. We can get into another time, but so good. The Ark theme is just great, which you can find on Apple Music or whatever. So I would go Crusade, Raiders, Temple of Doom, and Crystal Skull.
Wow.
So Crystal Skull is 4, but I don't hate Crystal Skull.
Yeah.
I just think, and I think as a kid, by the way, if this is different, if you would have asked me when I was 5 or when I was 10, it would have been Temple of Doom, Raiders, Crusade, and Crystal Skull obviously didn't come out then. And I bet you as a kid, I probably would have loved Crystal Skull. So yeah, Raider, or it would be Crusade, Raiders, Crusade, Raiders, Crusade, Raiders, Temple of Doom, and Crystal Skull.
All right. I think for me, I would go Raiders, Crusade, Crystal Skull, then Temple of Doom. But there's not a bad one in the bunch.
Well, can I ask you why? Because a lot of people, I think the younger generation do not like Temple of Doom. Is it because it's too dark? Were you just over the themes of it? And
I just think I just never got over that feeling as a kid watching that monkey brains.
Sure.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough one. It's a tough pill to swallow.
I'm probably going to throw on
what is this,
Skull after this? Yeah.
Anti-nostalgia somehow?
Anti-nostalgia.
What do you think about, do we have hopes, fears, Dial of Destiny? What do we think is going to happen?
I'm really curious about these younger scenes, what it's going to look like, how it's going to feel. Really, really interested in that. But I'm down for... I'm excited for the movie. I'm gonna be bittersweet because it is the end. This is it for Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones. Also I'll just say this should just be completely it. No one else should be Indiana. No one else should pick up the mantle. No one else should. This is
really
it.
You think?
I think this 100%. Just finish it. Just end it. Just done. You're done.
But here's my question: you think that Sean Flannery did a good job as Young Indy, right? Why would another actor be good in it?
it's Harrison Ford. I'm sorry. It's the Harrison Ford of it all. Like, you're just not going to. I mean, what else are you going to do with this character that you have? Like, I mean, we're at the end. We're look. They would take some big balls to cast Alden Ehrenreich for the next Indiana Jones. Oh, there'd be.
John Hoey would be fine with it though.
Sure.
Make Indy 6.
Well, it's not Solo 2, but I'll take it.
Right. I mean, I could not even be. The entire internet would just collapse. It would just, everything would be set on fire. It'd be insane. But
remember when there was rumors of Chris Pratt when he was like in everything?
Oh yeah.
They were like, "Oh, he's going to be the next Indy."
Because look, Indiana. He's at the end. What else are we gonna do with the character? Like, we don't have to go back and put another movie in between Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny, or between Crusade and Crystal Skull. We don't have to do anything else anymore. Like, we have almost his entire life from Young Indy to Dial of Destiny. Like, he's almost like Ahsoka in that sense. We have almost everything from this guy already.
That's true.
Now. Like, we don't need anymore. There's the books out there we can read and watch the movies over and over again, and watch the Young Indy on Disney Plus. So I think sometimes just let things be done. Let things be done. And Indiana Jones should be one of them.
I mean, Kylo Ren, dude. Let the cast die. Kill it if you have to. Yeah. I mean, I'm just going to be bummed. I think it's because the Young Indy.
Don't be sad that it's over. Be happy that it happens.
Yeah, it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all, right?
Yeah, Indiana Jones is breaking up with us.
Hey, it's not the years, it's the mileage, okay? Wait, Kevin, you're going to say something else on continuing Indiana or no?
Yeah, I just think that I don't think they will. And I think it would be fine if they don't. And you definitely don't want deep fake or AI or whatever.
No.
Or not AI, but...
Hello, I am Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I don't think so.
My daughter is literally pulling cords out and like trying to pull this microphone out. She's such a little terror right now.
Wow.
I feel like I'm holding it together pretty well.
You're doing pretty good.
I'm going mute at specific times. She's literally trying to pull my mic out right now.
We can hear it now. We can hear it now.
Might be a good time to wrap up.
Yeah,
it might be a good time to wrap up.
Brandon, any final thoughts on Dial Destiny, Indiana Jones overall as a franchise? Continue on, or not?
I wouldn't mind if they continued on. I really, I don't mind at all. Go for it. I'm excited for the movie. I predict it's probably going to be like middle of the rankings somewhere. And yeah, I'm excited to see Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah, that's true.
I heard he's really good. Like,
he's always good. When you hear like a bad performance from Mads, like when you ever hear Mads phoned it in, I never heard that.
Yeah, he's good. I'm looking forward to it. I hope we have some cool like homages to the past, and kind of it feels like a real wrap up of everything. So
yeah.
So I'm definitely.
Kira's gonna play us off now.
Yeah.
It's like the Oscars.
Never. Obviously, yeah. This is why we should start earlier. Sorry. She's just singing. She's having fun. You like Indiana Jones? Great. But yeah. So my plan for Dial of Destiny. I'm gonna do the full. The last time I did that is when I saw The Force Awakens. I had rewatched everything and all of Clone Wars and everything, and it was so rewarding in the end. Like,
yeah.
When I finally got to that big exhale, which was The Force Awakens. So I'm looking forward to seeing it in that context. And yeah, with Dial of Destiny, I just hope, I don't think they'll kill him off. I would think that would be a mistake. Like, let the guy have a happy ever after.
Let him right off into the sunset again.
Like you said, he's the Ahsoka of Indiana Jones. We've seen every second of his life. Like, the only thing they can do is, I think that it's missing is like his, like when he was 10. Between 10 and 12 years old, they could do a young 10 Indiana Jones. But, he did fight in World. He did like this so.
Oh yeah, World War II, but whatever.
Yeah, there's all the World War II missions that he like partaked in that you could do. But yeah, I don't think they need it. I think that it's fine and it will live on in the novels. You could find the novels, you could play the video games and track it down in all the media. So
I'd be down for video games here on out for sure.
Yeah, but I hope it's a good send off. Some reviews are panning it, some are liking it. So I usually kind of tend to love everything. So
Yeah.
it's a blessing, not a curse. So I know I'm going to go in probably crying and excited.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I left The Flash literally texting my friend that was a religious experience for me. And like, it is one of the most lauded, hated movies of all time. And like, it was like, I was weeping during the Michael Keaton scenes. Like, if we do a Batman Inc. episode, like I was visibly weeping. So I told my wife sitting next to me, and I like put my her hand on my face to feel my tears. And then she filed for divorce the next day. So I don't know.
All right. Well, with that said, thanks for tuning into this edition of Archaeologists LLC. The merger is almost complete. We're filing the paperwork as we speak. But thanks for tuning in. And next week we'll talk about some Star Wars. And then we'll probably get into that Mandalorian making of thing and Ahsoka and all that stuff, whatever news drops as well. And also news that we haven't covered yet. So tune in next week for all of that. But until next time, we'll see you all in the next one.
Scoundrel. Scoundrel. I like the sound of that.